thank you for staying with us. We have several stories coming through this morning, courtesy of national dailies. And of course, we're going to look at those big stories for you. And then in the course of the show today, we also want to talk about agriculture, how that can become a panacea for us at this time as a country trying to win, as it were, the war against hunger in Nigeria. But let's take a quick break now. When we return, we'll bring you paper headlines. Queen Agaba and I are back here to take a look at the papers for you. That way we can bring you big headlines. This morning we have 4 papers to look at. The Daily Trust is the first. We're bringing you this morning. The Star story on the front page says, SIM NIA linkage, 11 million subscribers face blockage. Today, hopefully Queen is not one of them. Ask for more time. NCC forecloses deadline extension. You know, at the point it was the BVN linkage with bank accounts, all right? But now, as it turns out, it is the NIA that has become an issue, and we understand that 11 million subscribers are likely going to be blocked today, and those are not small numbers now, are they?
No, they're not. And I think it's preparatory what happened yesterday. I don't know if you experienced that there was network fluctuations. The networks were basically epileptic, all networks. I think not just my network. Around yesterday, I remember keep getting complaints from people saying they couldn't make calls, they couldn't make calls, receive text messages, or do any
even data service had a downtime.
I wonder what that is. I don't know if this is some sort of warning.
Of what was to come. You know, as of yesterday, somebody was already insinuating that there could be some political undertone, that some politicians may be up to something, maybe mischievous or something. And that's what, but I just know it was widespread. I even thought it was only FCT, but then it happened that I got a call or two from outside of Abuja, and it was the same complaints. But this is, again, going to be a bit cumbersome, especially when you realize, Queen, that most times when we do things like this, we don't have systems that are properly structured in such a way that people can do these things with relative ease. Some people say, okay, can I not do it remotely? Can I not? Do you understand? The next thing you're going to hear now is, well, there are designated centers, there are blah, 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 blah. And then even when you have a remote option, I mean, if it's something you can do maybe on your device, on a mobile device or something, you still realize that the portal is likely going to be problematic because it's going to be inundated with a barrage of applications on people who want to make entries and so on and so forth. So for me, I think it's going to be a nightmare for many people, and our loved ones, business partners, associates who are likely going to be cut off at least for a while and things like that. But we understand that it's worth the trouble when you look at it from the standpoint that this will also help check financial crimes, insecurity of all kinds, you know, and things like that, all right? Let's take a look at the left end, front page of the Daily Trust now. Hardship, we were threatened to end protests, that's the NLC. So question is, who threatened them and what was the reason? Well, those details can be found on page 26. Of today's Daily Trust newspaper. Jakba FG recruits 2,497 doctors. Others sounds like something good is in the offing, because I remember in September of 2022, I was at a teaching hospital and the site was crazy. I mean, it was crazy. The site was such that you would find people who desperately needed medical attention not being attended to for obvious reasons. One of them being that you had a shortage of hands, whether they were doctors, nurses, or other health professionals who were supposed to be there. And we're told that the doctor, the only doctor, this was A&E, accident and emergency, in a teaching hospital, right? Yes, that the only doctor who was on duty that night ought to have closed between 3 and 4, but this was past 10. The man was burnt out, the man was fagged out, the man was not even useful to himself anymore, but he just had to be at work, at least for whatever it was worth. So with this kind of recruitment, and hopefully more will happen, it just means that the situation is getting better, right? 2 kidnappers repent, request to join hunters in Taraba. How do we define repentance in this context? It's dicey, it's technical, because I don't know, for the intelligence and military authorities, I don't know what metrics, what KPIs they use, but how do you determine that somebody who is non-confirmed to be a kidnapper has repented? I'm not trying to say people can have a change of heart, people can turn a new leaf, right? People can suddenly get to a point in their lives and realize that, well, this has been the wrong path for me, right? I need to do a U-turn. People can always get to do that, because a lecturer once told us in school that there's a Chinese proverb that says, no matter how far you've come into a road, at that point, Queen, where you realize that it's the wrong road for you, you've got to turn back. But the problem was, a student in class says to him, can you tell us in Chinese? And the class ends and the man walks out of class. So that said, the point being made is, we have heard these cases of kidnappers, insurgents, bandits repenting. In fact, we have seen sitting governors saying that, look, we can reintegrate these guys as long as they tell us that they repented. I mean, how do you get to the heart of those people and know that they've actually repented?
You see, is this sort of reward system that enables more kidnappers, you know, gives them the leverage to say, you know what, we can do this, and then decide that because they see this reward system. What metrics do you use to judge, to tell that this person is actually repentant? That it's really funny that you say this kidnapper has repented and has gone to join hunters in Taraba State, has gone to join hunters in Taraba State. How do you determine a repentant kidnapper? So we were really anxious to know. I feel that some sort of punishment should be meted out to these people.
Even after they repented? Even
after they've repented. They should be able to serve some sort of... They could be in jail and be useful to... That's why we have prisons, for crying out loud. For the crimes that they have committed. So that they can be useful to themselves. Their trainings, I'm very well aware that their trainings that are given to these people, trainings that, you know, skill acquisitions in prisons and all that. So we must check our reward system. We should be able to check our reward system so that to ensure that there's never a repeat, because this is how we recycle these people. Because there's something called a rebound. They can always, you know, go back to these things again, because, you know, obviously they've been given that leverage to say that, oh, they've repented and now they have joined this and this and this and this and this, and it's in that bush, this one that is a hunter now, I'm sorry, that they get to kidnap more people. What makes you think that this person is repentant? I really want to know. So I'm asking the security agencies and the relevant agencies that, you know, have said that this hunter is repentant and this kidnapper is repentant and has gone to join hunters in Taraba. What metrics? How were you able to tell that this person is actually repentant? So I'm interested in knowing that. I think that we need to check our reward system. And then when we catch bandits like this, we've seen government officials say that, you know, they're rehabilitating these people that have been terror to the nation, to Nigeria for years, and then you say that the reward system is appalling, I must say.
It is. It's crazy. But when you say, yeah, that's the reason we have prisons, and that means you're suggesting prosecution and eventually these people getting jailed. But won't that defeat the purpose for which they repented in the first instance? They're not repenting
because they were caught.
Just so they can show up and then you take them to jail. I mean, you send them to prison. They are repenting so they can have a leeway out so that they can avoid or dodge being sent to jail. So if the authorities ultimately send them to jail, does that not make mockery of their repentance in the first instance? What do they get back for?
At what point do they repent? Do they not say that they're just repenting because, they just come up and say that you just make up your mind and say that you want to... Let me give you an instance. If you have been a murderer, and then you come you come out to say that, oh, I killed, oh, I am repenting. I come out to say that I've killed so and so person.
Yeah.
Don't you think that you should be served some jail punishment? You would be, as the law demands, that you be served some sort of punishment, because you've come out to say, obviously you've committed a heinous crime, and you should be punished for it. You cannot say that, oh, because I opened my mouth to say that I killed this person and I'm changed, I shouldn't serve, I shouldn't be punished for it. So I'm really of the opinion that we need to check our reward systems.
We should, all right. Okay, well, let's check the papers as well for you. Those were just the headlines we got from today's issue of the Daily Trust newspaper. Queen has the next paper for us.
Okay, the next paper we're looking at is, we're looking at the Daily Times. And at the top of the paper, we have FG recruits 2,497 health personnel, enrolls 750,000 people into NHIS. We see this headline in the Daily Trust. And then also, with the private sector to address peculiar challenges, work with private sector to address peculiar challenges. This is coming from, there's nobody accredited. This statement is not accredited to anybody, but you find that on page 5 of the Daily Times. Also on the Daily Times, we have NLC. I'll no longer honor government's invitation for dialogue. Ajero, it's on page 2 of the Daily Trust. Now, on the Oronsaya report, we won't lay off workers, FG assures. Now, the big story on the Daily Times, we have economic hardship. Your patience, perseverance won't be in vain, Tinubu assures Nigerians. I think we spoke about this earlier.
Yes.
And then we have Army uncovers 40 illegal oil wells in Rivers community. And then NIMET, Verisan partner on key climate services. That's all for the Daily Times. Next paper would be the Vanguard, which you would walk us through. The Vanguard.
The Vanguard newspaper. Quickly, everyone. Let's begin from just above the name mast here. All right. It says investors lose 1.5 trillion naira in stocks over new monetary policy. That's on page 19. The monetary policy conversation is a very profound one, right? But then it's not something that you're going to be having this morning. We called off strike over threats of intimidation. Ajero is the one to whom that headline is credited. For starters, Comrade Joe Ajero is the President, Nigeria Labour Congress, NLC. Edo Guba, fresh crisis brews in PDP with 2 riders. Give me certificate of return or face lawsuit, Shaibu tells NWC. I will surpass Obaseki's performance if elected, Ighodalo. All right. Wigwe family fixes dates for burial rites. You can follow that itinerary on page 8 of the Vanguard newspaper. Makinde moves against the rising feed prices in Oyo. And then to the big story this Thursday on the Vanguard newspaper, Oronsaya reports FG Labour disagree on job losses. With several riders accompany that headline. First, it says, there won't be job losses, FG. There will be massive job losses, Labour. NLC asks affiliates to furnish it with implications on members. TUC says 3-man committee, scrap Senate. We don't need bicameral legislature. That's a SENO, Senior Staff Association of Nigerian Universities. It's a welcome development, but shouldn't be done in a hurry. Obi says being in opposition does not warrant blind, thoughtless criticisms. I think that just makes a lot of sense, right? Okay, let's take it further down, everyone. Mambila, I have no regrets paying Agonoye's medical travel bills this year. Tinubu to Nigerians, I won't rush to restructure. Says Akeredolu was a fearless defender of truth. President is indeed Aketi's brother, friend, Akeredolu's widow. All right. Tinubu secures $1 billion Afrexim Bank grant for medical industrialization to sign executive order on reduction of costs of drugs. And then a bit of sports now on page 29. Osimhen fires hat-trick in big CRI win for champions. All right, you can read those up today from the Vanguard newspaper, and then we have the next one and the last one, which is the Leadership newspaper.
On the leadership,
excuse me,
the top of the nameplate of the leadership, we have Shatima orders new board to rejig Hajj operations. We also have we suspended Labour protest to avoid attacks, Ajero. And then the big story on the leadership is FG takes steps. Okay, this is consortium floats initiative against coup in West Africa. We find that on page 4 of the leadership. And then the big story, FG takes steps to crash cost of drugs, embarks on medical industrialization, secures $1 billion of Afrexim Bank grant, injects 50 billion naira into primary healthcare centers. Tinubu to sign executive order. And then we have NIN, linkage, bank linkage, 85.51 million bank customers risk account suspension. Oh. Now we have Assembly Speakers back state police. Also on the leadership newspaper, gun maker, 6 others arrested in Benue. Tinubu visits Ondo, condoles with Akeredolu's family. And lastly on the leadership, many killed in attack on Chadian security agency. And that's on page 6 of the leadership newspaper. I think that's all that we have lined up on the papers
right?
This morning.
It's interesting, and we do urge you as always to take a look at the papers for yourself, even if it's just one you can get. I mean, you've got to follow the stories and stay ahead of the news. But there was one headline that actually struck out for me, the move by the federal government now to crash the cost of drugs. You know, a lot of Nigerians now are finding it hard to eat. So you can imagine how much more expensive it is. I mean, how further out of their reach the cost of drugs, you know, has gone. Because people have to be able to afford food. To talk about even basic medicine for malaria, for headaches, and you know, the regular items and things like that. So this is a great move. We understand the federal government, under the leadership of President Bola Tinubu, has secured a $1 billion grant from Afrexim Bank. That's the African Export-Import Bank. Yes, and that's a great move to make. We'll be bringing you a big conversation around agriculture and how that could be some magic worker for us in light of the difficulty that Nigerians are dealing with at this point in time. We're taking a break now. In the meantime, we're joining Anthony Momodu to bring you an update on sports.
Welcome to Sports News Update. Nigerian centre-back Super Eagles standing captain William Troost-Ekong has undergone surgery to address a ruptured biceps femoris in his right leg sustained during the 2023 African Cup of Nations in Côte d'Ivoire. Troost-Ekong, who played a pivotal role in Nigeria's journey to the AFCON final and was voted the best player of the tournament, highlighted his defensive prowess and strong leadership qualities. The 30-year-old was not only a rock at the back of the Super Eagles throughout the AFCON tournament, but was equally impactful up front, scoring 3 goals for Nigeria, despite encountering a hamstring injury during the group stages, which forced him to miss the final group match against Guinea-Bissau. Troost-Ekong's commitment shone through. His bravery chose to play through the pain in the crucial knockout stages, even playing the full 120 minutes of the semi-final against South Africa. This decision not only demonstrated his unwavering commitment to the team's success, but also allowed him to etch his name in history, while initially determined to continue playing for his club, PAOK Salonika. Upon further consultation with medical professionals, it was determined that immediate surgery was the most effective course of action for Troost-Ekong's long-term recovery. This hard decision reflects both his dedication to his career and his prioritization of long-term health. The National Executive Committee of Sports Writers Association of Nigeria has dismissed claims by a few disgruntled elements that Isaac Benjamin has been impeached. A statement from Swan's National Secretariat in Abuja yesterday and signed by the Association Secretary General Ikenna Okonkwo insisted that at no time did NEC meet to suspend Benjamin as Swan president, talk more of contemplating his impeachment. The statement described a certain communique by few persons as lacking in substance, non-existent, and mere figment as 12 out of 16 member NEC as presently constituted are solidly behind the Swan president. Thomas Tuchel used the first speech to his players after being sacked by Bayern Munich to send a message to those in the dressing room who were keen to see him go, according to reports in Germany. The former Chelsea manager was given a marching orders last week amid a turbulent run of form for the Bundesliga giant, but will stay at the club until the end of the season while the club looks for his successor. Defeated by league leaders Bayer Leverkusen and VfL Bochum in the German top flight and the shock loss against Lazio in the first leg of the Champions League round of 16 tie helped sharpen the board's resolve to let Tuchel go after weeks of circulation in Bavaria. One of the key reasons for the 50-year-old's departure is thought to have been his source relationship with a number of established stars such as Joshua Kimmich. In a bid to motivate those players for the sharp end of the season, Tuchel's first meeting will with his players last Wednesday in the wake of the news breaking contained special directive for stars who may be pleased to see him go. Manchester United are reportedly in pole position to sign an £86 million rated Benfica defender in the summer transfer window. Erik ten Hag has struggled to settle on a consistent centre-back pairing this season following injury layoff for Lisandro Martinez and Harry Maguire, while Raphael Varane is expected to leave the club when his contract expires at the end of the season. Bringing in a new central defender is a priority at United this summer, and they have already set their sights on a rising star from Portugal. According to Ojogo, the Red Devils are leading the race to sign the 20-year-old Antonio Silva, who has made 35 appearances for Benfica this season. Silva, a seven-cap Portugal international, has starred for the Portuguese giant, who are currently 2 points clear of Sporting Lisbon at the top of the Premier Liga table, albeit having played a game more than their rivals. Sir Jim Ratcliffe's dream is to make Zinedine Zidane Manchester United's next permanent manager at the club, according to reports. The new United investor, who recently acquired 27.7% stake in the club in exchange for $1.3 billion, has been quick to start making changes behind the scenes at Old Trafford. Ratcliffe and his Ineos team have already appointed Manchester City executive Omar Barada as the club's new CEO and are trying to secure Dan Ashworth's exit from Newcastle in the hopes of making him a sporting director. Erik ten Hag is currently in the managerial hot seat as the 13-time Premier League champions, but pressure has been mounting amid suggestions Ratcliffe could look to replace him in the summer. Zidane is the British billionaire's ideal replacement for ten Hag, and the club would be keen to bring in the Frenchman if he wanted the job, as reported by Foot Mercato. The main issue for United is that Zinedine has rebuffed attempts from other clubs since departing Real Madrid following his second managerial stint at the club 3 years ago. Madrid remained the only team Zidane has managed since retiring from his legendary playing career in 2006 after that year's FIFA World Cup. And talking boxing, Francis Ngannou has delivered a brutal warning to Anthony Joshua ahead of their upcoming fight after showing off his devastating power. The former UFC heavyweight champion is set for his second professional boxing bout when he meets Joshua in Saudi Arabia on March 8, after previously impressing in his defeat against Tyson Fury. Joshua is attempting to keep his plans of becoming a 3-time heavyweight world title holder alive by beating Ngannou in the hopes of setting up a unification fight against the eventual winner of Alexander Usyk and Fury's bout. Ngannou is renowned for his terrifying knockout power and holds the record for the highest point in the world that registered his one-hit power at an astonishing 129,161 units. Now he has taken the opportunity to demonstrate his incredible power again ahead of his contest with Joshua by showing off on a punch machine in a gym. Ngannou shared a video of himself striking the machine that sees him keep both feet stationary before pulling back his arm a short distance in the build-up to delivering a huge blow. The 37-year-old then connects with a punch ball and rattles the machine with the power of his right-hand strike. The digit on the scoreboard immediately begins to soar and quickly maxed out at 999 in recognition of Ngannou's effort. And that's how we call it a wrap on the Sports News Update. I am Anthony Momodu.
Thank you for staying with us, everyone. Big thank you to Anthony Momodu for bringing us that summary of sporting news. But so we understand now from the stories coming through this morning, particularly if you take a look at the Vanguard, I mean the Guardian newspaper, that at least 36 states now going forward will be endorsing the bill that is aimed at introducing state police. Of course, we all know that conversation has been a long time coming, but then it has been neither here nor there. However, in recent times, even the federal government has realized that there has never been a better time to have the conversation around state police than today. So we've seen even state governors rally around it. Of course, it has always been state governors clamoring, even though we know it's going to be in the interest of the subnationals and ultimately the nation at large. Still speaking, I mean, still talking about issues of, just to mention too, that before now, what we have heard was that if you introduce state police, governors will abuse it, governors will take undue advantage of it, governors will exploit it, particularly when it's election time, and then more so when it's off-cycle elections, like you're going to have one in Edo State on the 21st of September. I believe there's one sometime in November in Ondo. So you have these off-cycle elections across different states, including Anambra, and for example. So people have said, look, governors will abuse it. But the fact of the matter is, I will not even say governor abuse the federal police, that is the Nigeria police as of today. I will not see governors even tie commissioners of police in states, to their apron strings. So what it means is we just need to have a system, evolve a system that can put the governors in check to a very large extent. For example, we understand that one of the clauses in this bill being introduced right now is that the governors will not have the latitude to unilaterally, all right, dismiss a commissioner of police, as it were. Do you understand? So you're going to have to need the Police Service Commission to do that, in addition to other arrangements being put in place right now. So state police is a conversation that is very topical and we'll continue to have it. But second, we're now hearing that the Senate has invited Nyesom Wike, Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, as well as the Commissioner of Police, FCT, command with regards to insecurity in the territory. But more so, we understand that this is actually being spored, all right, which means it is being, motivated, given the fact that an aide to Ned Nwoko, a senator representing Delta, was killed by kidnappers. We understand they had been kidnapped a while ago, but now one of them got killed, and as such, Minister of FCT, Nyesom Wike, and Commissioner of Police of the territory has also been invited to say, look, come and tell your side of the story, come and give us an update, walk us through what you've been doing in terms of fighting insecurity. You know, this gets a little political because there are people who believe, well, what if it had not come so close to home? What if it were not Ned Nwoko's aide who had been affected now? I mean, we've seen Nigerians. I mean, we had a colleague here at Global Television who happened to have been in an e-filtered taxi where a lady got thrown out of the taxi. She eventually died. I mean, that story went viral. Senate didn't make an invitation. Nobody was invited, not even by the committee of the Senate or something. But now it's Ned Nwoko's aide, and then Senate is inviting a minister and the Commissioner of Police to come and tell the side of the story.
Come and tell the side of the story. Now, this is where this boils down to what I keep saying, that this is gradually eating deep into every nook and cranny of the Nigerian sector. Like, it's getting close and close to the people in power, the people in government, the people in seat of authority. But before then, do we have to wait for it to get to this extent before such drastic measures are being put in place. I like that they're inviting the Minister of FCT, and I like the motion that the Red Chamber is moving for, asking the Senate to ensure that move for a motion where there will be surveillance camera in strategic places, strategic locations in the FCT to, you know, curb this menace of kidnapping and insecurity in the FCT. And they are also moving for the motion that there's recruitment of more security, recruitment of more police personnel to ensure that, you know, some of these excesses, these kidnappings are put in check. But that's still it's a good one, but does it have to come this close before, you know, they start taking strategic and drastic moves like this? Yeah.
I think it's interesting because I remember a few years ago, we had a situation where a senator had bought a wife for his car, brand new car. Bought a car for his wife, brand new car, I should say. And of course, you know what happens with brand new cars, you're not expecting certain faults. But then, yes, I did say he bought his wife for a car, but actually it was bought a car for his wife. All right, so it's a brand new car, and then you expect that there's some warranty of some sort. You don't expect some kind of faults to just start popping up so early. So we understand this vehicle packed up at the point or started giving some very nasty signs. Mart takes it back to the car mart. They do a little of, the after sales guys do a bit of servicing and takes it back, and then the vehicle relapses, as medical doctors will say, of their patients. And one thing leads to another. And the next thing you know is this senator comes to, this Nigerian senator I'm talking about. Maybe I'll find out time to look for this story. The senator comes to the house, comes to the floor of the Senate, and he says he wants the car dealer to be invited to come and explain the reason that, they treated him like that, the reason they gave him such an experience. This is something that is entirely a private transaction. All right, so it's how far we can show our selfishness, even as people who otherwise should have been exemplary public servants. All right, so it raises the question, like you said a while ago, Queen, do we need to wait until things get this bad before we take certain actions? You know, this is sad, and it's interesting. But you see, all of these things are tied to time. Time changes everything. A time will come where it's going to be a level playing field. We've seen that happen with COVID, for example. We've seen that happen with NSAS. All right, we've seen that happen time and again. But I hope we're learning valuable lessons, because people say, as they say, it's cheaper to learn from other people's mistakes than to learn from yours, because yours will be too costly. All right, so we're taking a quick break, everyone. The conversation continues here on Global Television. Do stay with us. Thank you, everyone, for staying with us. It's been quite an eventful morning for Queen and I here on the show, but it turns out this is what we're living it.
Yeah, we have to.
This morning. But remember, the conversations continue here on Global Television. We'll see you again soon.
Bye.